Alright, it's Coral 45 here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build a computer, but not just build a computer, how to buy the parts for it and how to tell what parts fit together with what so that you can get online, order all your parts, and then build your computer. Because I know that was a problem for me. I couldn't find a video that showed me exactly how to tell what parts go together. So for this first video, I'm going to be teaching you how to buy them, and then the second one I'm going to be teaching you how to build them with some similar parts of mine that I already have. So to start off, there are 8 main parts of a computer. First is a processor that processes all the information, a motherboard which holds all the main parts together. It holds a processor, video, RAM, hard drive, and then the video card or onboard video, either one. But if you're going to be doing anything that takes 3D rendering, you're most likely going to want a card. The RAM just stores all the information in an easy place to grab it for software or games or anything. Hard drive just stores all your other information that doesn't necessarily have to be grabbed really fast, all your files and everything. CD drive, which is kind of self-explanatory, and the case holds all this together. And the 8th is the peripherals, like the keyboard and monitor, the mouse, all the inputs and outputs, printers. But I'm not going to be covering those, and they're not going to be included in the cost. Monitors run about 100. Keyboard you can get cheap for $10 for keyboard and a mouse. But I'm just going to be covering these because these it doesn't really matter what you buy. But when you first start building a computer, the first thing you want to look at is like what you're going to be using it for. I want to use it for gaming, or I want to use it for browsing the internet, but or just word processing. So I'm just kind of gonna meet in the middle in this one that'll run most games on like all high. So I guess it would lean more towards a gaming computer, and it'll just kind of be an all-around computer. It's not going to be the best computer you've ever seen, but it'll still run everything really well. So we're going to start with a processor because it's kind of the base of how much power we have. So there are plenty of processors to choose from. You could choose between AMD and Intel. I always go with AMD because they're far less pricey, and I'm very cheap. Intel is more powerful, but they're a lot more pricey, like by quite a bit. So I'm gonna go with AMD, and then over here you can sort it by series, and it's kind of in a list of what order they were produced. These ones, except the Sempron. Sempron's not all that great. These Phenom 2 are their newest processor series. Well, their second newest now. They got a new one out. So I'm going to go with a Phenom 2 X6, so it's 6 cores. There's only 3 that I can choose from, and there's only 3 that I can choose from. 2.8 gigahertz might be a little low. 3.2 is probably where I want to be. It is 169, so I'll just have to go for that, because once you buy the processor, you can always upgrade everything else, but upgrading the processor takes a lot of money. So I'm gonna go out on the processor, and we've got a processor picked. First, we want to make sure it has a heatsink and fan, which it does, so we don't need to buy that. And then we want to check what socket it is. It's AM3, so we know we need to get an AM3 motherboard, and its thermal design power is 125 watts, so it pulls 125 watts. So we're going to open Newegg again and find a motherboard, because that's what the processor hooks into. We go into motherboards, AMD, because we got an AMD processor, and then we know we have an AM3 socket, and there's micro ATX motherboards, and ATX motherboards are just your main kind of form factors. It's essentially how large they are. But I really don't like micro ATX because they don't have a whole lot of slots. So I'm going to go over here to form factor in the advanced and sort it to just ATX. And then I'm really cheap, so I'm going to go by lowest price. I don't really like Jetway. I haven't used a whole lot of their products, but I'm not a fan of them. I've never used ASRock. I've used Biostar, and I've got 3 of their motherboards, and they seem to do pretty good. And they're not too bad. They're $64. You can get cheaper ones, but they're going to be micro ATX, and they're not going to have a whole lot of capability. So now it's 6 gigabits a second, which is fairly new. It'll help with the read and write speed of our hard drive. So I'm going to look at this one. We know it's already got the AM3 socket. So looking at it, it's got no onboard video, so I'm gonna have to buy a graphics card. And it's got the SATA 6 gigabits a second. So it looks good to me. So I'm gonna see what kind of RAM it takes, because that's the next thing I'm gonna be buying, because the RAM fits onto the motherboard. DDR3 up to 1333 or 1600 overclocked, but we're not going to be overclocking, so it's 1333 is a max, so there's not really a point spending tons of money to get really like 1600 RAM, but most RAM kind of comes 1600 now. And it supports that 125 watt thermal design power, which is important. That means it'll support our processor. So now that we got that, we're going to go look at RAM. Not funny junk. Go to Newegg and look for memory. We need desktop memory, and we'll go back to guided, and we know that we want DDR3 right here, and I'm probably just gonna go with 8 gigabytes, because that's kind of, it's getting more standard, is just to have 8 gigs. You could go more if you'd like, but that'll get kind of pricey. This is already gonna run probably around $700, I'm guessing, maybe $650. But sort it by lowest price as always. And right here, G.Skill, I've got plenty of G.Skill RAM, and I'm pretty happy with it. There's 2 4 gig sticks, DDR3. It is 1600, which doesn't make a huge difference. It'll just clock it down to 1333, but it's only $29. And I mean, normally I'd browse through a little bit, but they seem to be a pretty good deal, especially they've got heat sinks on them, and there's some G.Skill ones down here that don't even have heat sinks, and 1333, so I guess they're on sale or something. But right here, some RAM, that's really all you need. Then we go back to our motherboard. The next thing on our list is going to be, we got the processor, motherboard, RAM. We don't have a video card, so we're going to go for a video card. And video cards, there's a ton to go through on like what you can, like how to choose a video card. I could probably make a whole video just on that, but I'm going to kind of go through this really quick. If you'd like more of an explanation on it, just let me know. But go to video cards, desktop video cards, and I always go with NVIDIA just because I really know their model line better, and just their what is better than what through their models. So I've just always gone with NVIDIA. I'm not like a huge super fan of them, but it's just kind of what I've gone through. So we go to our motherboard, and we want to see what kind of expansion slots it has. It has a PCI Express 2.0 by 16, Express by 1, and a PCI slot. This is a really small. It's a really small expansion, and the PCI is really slow. Well, this one's kind of slow too. The PCI Express 2.0 by 16 is just the standard for most video cards now. It says we have 2 of them, but one's running at 4x, so it's really, we've only got one that can run a video card well. So we're going to go here, and we want to do PCI Express 2.0 by 16. There's this one, but it's only got 1 card in it, so I'm just going to go with 2.0 by 16. And then here's the model line. Essentially, you go up, it gets better as you go up. GTS 400 are mainly like, they're a little lower than GTX. I'm probably going to go with the GTX, which will probably run near $200. If you want to go lower, you could go with like a GTS 400. But once I get in here, I'll teach you like the main parts you want to look at. I mean, you're not going to, the main things you want to look at is like the model. It doesn't necessarily reflect how good the card is, but it's a good indication. And then most people just look straight at how much memory it has and just say, oh, it must be really good because it's got 1 gig of memory. But that's really not what you want to, that's not everything you want to look at. You want to look up what kind of memory it has, which is GDDR5, which is really fast. And you want to look up its bit rate. Well, not its bit rate. I don't remember exactly what it's called. But it's got a name. Let me check. Memory interface, that's it. Its memory interface right here is 256-bit, which is pretty nice. If you're going to do any gaming on high resolutions and with really high settings, you don't want to go any lower than 256-bit. 128-bit will play most things probably on low if you get the right card. and on a small resolution, because that's essentially how wide the tube is that you're shoving the graphics through. So the 128-bit and 64-bit probably won't do you any good at all. And so I just go for a 256-bit card there, and whatever model line you want. Most of the lower ones don't even have them in 256-bit, but once you hit 256-bit, you're probably not going to get any lower than $150. So I sort it by lowest like always, and MSI is a pretty good brand. I've never used any Gigabyte video cards, and I do like EVGA though. They're a really good brand, so I'm just gonna check out this card. So if I went into more, I could show you like what to look at right here and like how to compare a bunch of cards, but that's, like I said, like a whole nother video on just choosing video cards. So we're gonna scroll down with 256-bit, 1 gig, everything. Now we know it fits in there, but what it does take is a lot of power, and we want to check, and that's how we're basically going to gauge our power supply, how big of a power supply to get. It doesn't tell me the recommended power here, so I'm going to go, it's a GeForce GTX 460. So I'm going to go here to Google and then do recommended power supply. Should have been 2 words. So here's one on Guru 3D. They do a lot of benchmarking and stuff. If you look here, it looks, these are all a bunch of GTX 460 cards. They look like they're pulling a max of 325 watts. So I'd guess the recommended is probably 450. See if they have it on here. Yeah, right here. 450 to 500 watt is recommended on the for a GTX 460. So we know what the recommended is, and so we're gonna go back here, go to Newegg, and we're gonna get a power supply from here, from this point. Power supplies again, and we know we want, well, the rule I use, I don't remember if I already told you, but the rule I use is get the recommended for the video card and then add about a couple hundred watts to your power supply, just to be safe. You could probably get away with less, but I would just add a couple hundred. So it was 500 recommended, so I'm going to go with the 700 to 800 watt power supplies, sorted by lowest price. And RaidMax is a pretty good brand. I actually own this exact power supply. It works really well. I haven't Diablo Tech. I've never bought anything because I've kind of been scared, because they have a lot of really cheap power supplies for like $10-15, which I'm sure they're a great brand. Rosewheel does some pretty good stuff. They're kind of geared towards the lower, cheaper end. I've never used OCZ power supplies, but I own this one. I know it works really well, so I'm just going to go straight for it. It's a 730 watt, and then we want to check another thing with our power supply to make sure it fits. We go here, and we go to our motherboard. We want to see how many, the power pin is 24 pins. So we need a power supply that has 24 pins, and this one has 20 plus 4. Most of them will now, which just means it's got a 20-pin connector and a 4-pin connector that you can join together to make a 24-pin, so you can do either. And it also has 2 PCI Express connectors, which is for our video card, because if we look at our video card, there should be a picture somewhere if we can get to the back of it. In the back, there's 2 PCI Express power connectors that we're going to need to connect for power. So this power supply has those, so that's important. Most video cards come with adapters anyway. You can make them from the 4-pin Molex, but it's also got SATA power connectors, which is important for our hard drive and CD drive. And then getting more into video cards and probably further, you should be okay either way, is the amperage. Most of them have a recommended amperage, but if you're around 24 to 26 amps on the 12-volt rail, you should be fine for your power supply. So this power supply will work really well. It's even modular, which means you can pull some cables out so it looks cleaner. So let's go back to our list. We've got the processor, motherboard, video, RAM. So we need, where's my power supply on this list? I didn't even list it, did I? So we got the power supply too. So we need the hard drive, CD drive, and the case. So we'll go back here, and then hard drives aren't really hard to pick out. We want an internal hard drive. And then hard drives are really pricey right now because there's flooding in Thailand where a lot of them are created, or a lot of them are manufactured. So these are going to be like through the roof, so they may not be whenever you're watching this video. But we know that our motherboard supports SATA 6 gigabit a second, so to take advantage of that, we're going to want SATA 6 gigabit a second hard drives. So we sort it by that, lowest price, and look, like a 160 gig for $84, which is ridiculous. That used to be like the price of a 1.5 terabyte. But I really don't like Seagate. Every hard drive I've had really didn't turn out very well. So I really like Western Digital stuff. So I'm going to go with Western Digital, 320 gig, $94, which is really pricey, but you can't get much cheaper. We'll go for that hard drive. We'll go to get the CD drive. And most motherboards only come with, well, the cheaper ones only come with one SATA connector. So we're going to need to get another one if we got two plugged in. So we're going to look at CD DVD burners, because if it's a burner, it's also a reader. So and most people burn a few DVDs or CDs. We want the SATA interface, not IDE, because that's what our motherboard supports. And then sort it by lowest price. I really don't have a huge need for CD drives as long as it reads the disk. I'm not like burning a million things at once, so I'm going to go with the cheapest one I can find that is not OEM, because OEM, I can't even remember what it stands for, but it basically is just the part, there's no extra things, no reader's manual, you just get the part. And they just get it from mass, I don't even remember for sure. You don't get a whole lot with it. So I'm going to go with the first one that's not OEM, which is right here. Light-On, it's $19. It's not too bad. SATA. And then go to details. Well, we really don't need to. We just need to make sure that it has a cable. And in the pictures, it does. So it's got the cable. So we got that. CD drive, hard drive, whatever that was. Oh well. So we need the case. So we're going to open up a new one. Go to the computer cases right here. Computer cases again. And there's a bunch of different sizes, like micro ATX mid tower. Some of them I think are like made up by a few companies, like these ones that only have 4 cases in them. I don't really know for sure, but just a standard size case is the ATX mid tower. It'll fit ATX motherboards, and it's just going to be a normal size case. Full towers are a lot bigger, and there's just a whole bunch of different sizes. So lowest price as always, and cases can get really crappy, so I'm going to scroll down until I find a better brand. I have a Link World case that kind of sucks. Rosewill does some good stuff, but I still want a case that looks pretty good. I don't want it to be freaking ugly. There's the Rosewill Wind Rider. That might be a good, but I think I'm going to go down a little more for a better one. Page 2. And there's a Raid Max one right there. Hurricane, it is $39 with only $5 shipping. Normally they've got a pretty high shipping. It's the Hurricane. Brings on some hurricanes. So go to details, and really we already know it probably fits mostly everything we need. Main things you just want to look at is kind of what you want in a case. Like this only has, let me enlarge it, only has 2 front USB ports, and just how many drive bays you want and what you're going to be doing. But most things are just guaranteed to fit as long as you buy normal stuff, not like, see, it fits ATX micro ATX motherboard, so if you buy something else you probably won't, the holes won't line up. And that's really all you need to build a computer on. So I'm going to add it all to cart, see how much it costs. Okay, refresh. I put this at 669, which is right where I thought I was going to make it. So, like I said, this computer will run almost everything you throw at it. Not like the best, it's not going to be amazing, but it'll still run pretty much everything you throw at it on medium, high, probably even more than that. But you also will need a monitor and everything if you don't only have one keyboard mouse. So it comes to $669, $20 shipping, $690 total. And I guess if you want to take anything down, you can always go for a really cheap case. That'll only bring it down about $10, $15. Motherboards, this is probably about as cheap as you're gonna get, unless you're going for like a micro ATX one. You can get for $40. You can always go for like a GTS 220 instead of a 460. They're 128-bit, and if you catch them on sale, you can get them for like $30, and they run most stuff on low if you're not huge into gaming, or you want to game but you don't have the money. And then you could just buy the $30 card and upgrade it later. Power supplies, with a lower card you can get a lower power supply. Just watch out and make sure you're not cutting it super close, because you could ruin some things. Memory, I mean, it's only $30 for 8 gigs. You could get 4 gigs for $20, but it's it's really cheap right now. You're not going to gain a whole lot from cutting it. And then you could always go for a quad core, which is closer to like $100, I believe. I've got a quad core in mine. So that should be everything you need. You can order it and on its way, and then watch my next video whenever it comes out. That'll teach you how to build it. When all the parts will be similar. They won't be these parts though, but they're all compatible. So I'll see you in the next video.